Welcome to Tradie TV. Today we're going to talk to Steve McQueeney, who is the Managing Director of We Spray Group Limited. We're going to dive into spray painting as an alternative to traditional painting and decorating. We're going to talk about the benefits, the obstacles. He's got some funny stories about previous jobs that he's done. And if you are on the verge of getting something painted, whether it's your kitchen redone, whether it's your windows, doors, whatever, you're going to want to listen to this. So let's dive into the episode right now. Just talk to me a little bit about We Spray Group Limited and where it came from, you know what I mean? How did you land on this? Because I don't think you've got a background in painting, have you?
No, I wouldn't know how to paint if you trained me. My background is marketing, and my two business partners, who are my two best friends, we went into this business together 4 years ago now. I was doing their marketing for them originally, and we just decided that if we put our skills together, we could make something bigger. And it's grown exponentially. Ever since we started, we've gone from strength to strength every year, bringing out new products, bringing out new methods, finding new and innovative ways of doing a better job for our customers.
So you talk about innovation. Now, a lot of people that are watching this, they may not be aware of the growing popularity of spraying a house, say, or spraying your kitchen cupboards rather than having a complete kitchen refit and all that. So what's changed in the market to make this the right time for spraying? I
think a lot of it is down to quality. For example, I went to see a prospect the other day, and he had inquired about painting. He didn't realise this was an option. This has been around for quite some time, but people still aren't aware of it. So when I explained to him that we can paint if you want, however, we can offer spraying, and this is why we would offer spraying, he was like, I had no idea you could do that. And it sounds great, and that's what he's bought into now, because it's it's more durable, it's longer lasting, it's more cost effective, and it provides a much better finish.
We're going to dive into some of the benefits, some of the obstacles, and also how you can make the best use of a spraying company in a minute. But I'm just interested in that reaction. You know, when you first turn and you go, right, we're going to spray your kitchen cupboards or your caravan. I've seen you spray a caravan. Yeah. Recently sprayed an aeroplane fuselage, so what's the average reaction of when you turn up to a job?
Well, this particular guy, he was he looked completely confused. So I explained it's paint, but it's not your B&Q off the shelf type of paint. It's a specialist industrial paint that's designed for this purpose. We offer a 10-year guarantee with it, which you're not going to get off Fred and his brush. And the reaction is confusion. I think they just don't get it. You associate spraying with vehicles and so on and so forth. And to be honest, when I first got into this, I was the same. I was like, what are you spraying? Like, how can you spray this paint? But it's because it's not your standard type of stuff that's sprayed. It's specifically made for this.
If you imagine, like, every industry's got an enemy, right? So, for example, my previous life, I was in the fitness industry, and the enemy was like terrible Instagram posts and just misleading information on Instagram. What would be the enemy of the spray industry or the painting industry?
Some of the sprayers themselves. So the people that are aware of spraying, I do a lot of the selling and the booking in and speaking to customers, and the people that I do come up against, some people have had bad experiences. Someone's gone in with, they think they can spray. They've gone in, made an absolute mess, and this stuff, the reason you get a 10-year guarantee is it doesn't come off. So if they make a mess, it's then set the rotting for people when I'm trying to pitch to people who might be interested in spraying. They've had a bad experience, and they might not have had that with a decorator, because decorating is slower, it's easier to do. Anybody can pick a paintbrush up and have a go. Whereas this, you need to know how to use specialist equipment. You need to know how to the mixing ratios. There's a science to it, which you can't just pick up a spray gun and spray. It doesn't work.
All right, so let's dive into like the biggest benefits of like using spray as opposed to like a conventional brush, roller, that kind of thing. Or even let's just zoom out a little bit. What are the benefits of getting a company in to do the painting? Because I suppose a lot of people might be in the mindset of like, well, I'll just do it myself.
One of the biggest things is the cost effectiveness. So, for example, I'll use a kitchen, for example. Average kitchen, you're looking at £7,000-8,000 to replace. Our average cost of spraying a kitchen is around 900. So if the the units themselves are in good condition, they're not water damaged and falling apart, as long as you think that they're going to last for another good few years, you get the same 10-year guarantee. So, we can completely transform and modernise a kitchen for a fifth of the price. So that's one of the biggest benefits. And another thing is the minimal disruption. So it might take you 2 weeks to have your kitchen ripped out and replaced, whereas we can be, most times, and depending on the size of the kitchen, we can be in and out in a day. So we turn up, we'll mask up, we'll prep everything, we'll spray the kitchen, we'll take everything down, and then we're gone. And you've got your new kitchen within a day, and you've not had to disrupt your life.
I think I can get where you're coming from there, because I think, having had my kitchen done in the past, actually I was all right with my cupboards and I was all right with my layout. It was just the doors were looking dated, they were a little bit battered. You got some water damage on your kickboards and that kind of thing, but, just a little revamp to spray it, especially if you can turn it around in a day or two. Yeah, I can see the benefit of that.
Another benefit that we promote is the eco-friendliness. So, ripping your kitchen out, replacing it with everything, new sink, new fridge, freezer, all that kind of stuff, whatever you want to do. It's quite wasteful on resources, whereas you're leaving your kitchen in. We're turning up, we're saving all that waste, and, the only waste we produce is the masking paper, which we know gets recycled anyway. So it's quite eco-friendly in comparison to replacing your kitchen entirely.
And I suppose, you've mentioned a couple of times already that it's much longer lasting than sort of your average, paint layer with a brush. So that'd be a benefit as well, that the longer lasting finish.
Yeah, of course. Again, it's anything we spray comes with a 10-year guarantee, and it's manufacturer backed. That's not just something we say. It's a manufacturer as long as we apply the paint and the hardener and the thinners and everything in the method that the manufacturer says. If anything was to fail and we didn't honour that warranty, the manufacturer will anyway.
And just talk to me about like the range of colours, because I suppose in my mind I'm sort of thinking, well, how limited am I to a certain colour type? Am I limited to a certain type of paint itself, a certain brand? What's like the range available to a customer?
We don't use branded paints, so it's not something we go and buy off the shelf. It's a specialist type of paint that is mixed to the colour of your choice, and you can. The choice is literally unlimited. We recommend using the RAL colour charts, which are a standardised, industry standard colours that they're very easily matched. But we can match things like Farrow and Ball, Valspar, Dulux, Little Green, any colour you want. And we did one recently actually where we couldn't track down the colour was from Howden's, the kitchen manufacturer, and this lady wanted that colour in particular. So we took a door away and we got it scanned by our supplier. They scanned it and they matched that paint. So you can have whatever you want.
And what about finish? Could you have a matte finish, a satin finish, silk finish? Is there like a textured finish?
Matte, satin or gloss. Each of those has their own benefits and disadvantages, especially where kitchens are concerned. So, we try to move towards satin and gloss with kitchens, because matte it's difficult to maintain, and you're obviously wiping your kitchen down quite a lot. You can rub the finish off. Matte, satin and gloss are the main finishes we use.
That's all like the logical stuff. Talk to me about some of the funny stories that you've had during the time sort of spraying people's homes and kitchens. I suppose you're going, well, not just kitchens, is it? So it's a wide range of...
Bedroom furniture. We get asked all sorts of weird and wonderful things, spraying frames of chairs, and we can spray anything. If it's nailed down, we can spray it. It just depends on where it is and what's in the room, what prep we have to do. But, we've got funny stories every day of the week. We've got one thing in particular. The funniest is the camaraderie between the teams, because we've got quite a few teams that go out, and we've put them all in a WhatsApp group now, and we've got them all sending their photos in of their jobs, and you can see it becoming more and more competitive, and it's actually really good because it's increasing their productivity, because they know that the other lads, if they see something that they might not do, they're going to pull it, they're going to say it to each other. We have a laugh. We've got a great team. Just
talk to me about that team, Steve. Like, what's the background of the average We Spray group painter? What did you call them, painters or sprayers?
Sprayers.
Sprayers. What would the background be? And Are there any key sort of personalities that you'd want to give a shout out to?
We've got quite a varied mix, and one of our guys has done this for probably 25 years. He began by spraying trucks, and that might seem a world away from what we do, but you spray trucks with the paint that we spray windows and doors with. It's the same stuff. So, his knowledge and experience is second to none. He's got an answer for everything in the best possible way. Like if he comes up against any problem, he's got the answer. It's he gets his way through it. We've got another lad. He's mid-20s. He's done this. This is all he's ever done since he was 16. And he was. This is the thing with this industry. There isn't a college or unless you're spraying cars and stuff. This is an industry that we're looking to disrupt with our own training as well. So he has only ever done sprayed windows and kitchens since he was 16. So he's self-taught. And then we've got another lad. He's worked for various different companies, but he's always done the same too. Kitchens. They each have the preferences. Some love to do the kitchens. Others love to be outside and doing the outside stuff, but obviously that's restricted by weather. But yeah, we've got a good enough mix to keep everybody happy.
We'll talk about restrictions and obstacles and that in a minute, because I think people will be quite interested in that. But before we move on to that, talk to me a little bit about the name and perhaps even the logo as well. What's the story? How did that come about?
It was actually my business partner. He said we should be called We Spray Windows. And I said, no, we shouldn't, because we spray kitchens too. And he was like, don't worry about it. And I was like, no, I don't like it. And I can be quite, I can't think of the word, I can be quite defensive with these things. And so I made a point of every time a customer said, do you spray kitchens? I'd tell my business partner, they've just asked that because we're called We Spray Windows. And he'd be like, yeah, but what we've done eventually as we've got busier and busier is we now set up We Spray Group, which will have various different we do this type of brands. So we have We Spray Windows, We Spray Kitchens, We Spray Worktops, and we're going to be doing some training stuff further down the line, which we've not decided on a brand yet, but it will follow the same theme. It's
quite a smart move, isn't it? It's a bit like Toys R Us, or, you know what I mean, We Cut Grass, you know what I mean? It literally... Yeah. Excuse the pun, says what it is on the tin. I agreed with him on that, with the windows, but my issue with the name originally was people might avoid us because they think we don't spray kitchens. And, we just left it as it, and it worked fine. But, as we've got bigger and bigger, we've decided to make sure there's a defined brand as to which brand is doing which job. What's your top 3 favourite jobs you've done to date?
Oh, there's quite a few. I tend to like the bigger jobs that go on for multiple days. We've done a huge.
Is that the pound signs? Is it?
It's not. It's actually not. Do you know what it is? It's because we're so busy, and with these bigger jobs, I only have to put my part of the work in at the start. Right. So they're there. I've sold the job. They're there. They get on there. This is what you need. This is what you do. I don't hear from them then for 3 days. Whereas if they're doing a job a day, it's like every day, got to do this, got to do that, got to do that. Then I've got to speak to the customer. So I just like they get there on Monday. I don't hear from them until Thursday. So I like that.
Right. Okay. So I know through your own, your pictures that you've recently painted the fuselage of an aeroplane. So fill me in. Tell me about that.
So the owner of that place, Joade, he's a serial entrepreneur. He has lots of property. He has lots of takeaways and restaurants along this particular area in what I don't know if you've heard of the Curry Mile in Manchester, but this is like the equivalent in Bolton. It's just full of takeaways and restaurants. And he had a plane. He's got a plane fuselage, and it's called Steaks on a Plane. It sells steak dishes. It's great. And he got in touch with a request to spray, and I looked at it and I thought, but that's the kind of person I am. So I spoke to my business partner. He said, that's going to be a headache. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to find a way. And he contacted us in December, which it's always difficult to spray outside. It's impossible to spray in Bolton in December. in minus temperatures or freezing rain. But he had somebody lined up for it, and they said to him, "We won't start it until May." So me being me, I took on the challenge, and I said, "Well, we'll get it done within 2 months." Took us about 2.5 months. So what we were having to do, instead of trying to run it over a 2-week period non-stop, was do it a couple of days at a time. That comes with its own huge challenges. You can't leave the masking on and various things, but we got it done. And he changed his mind on the colour halfway through. He changed his mind on the design, because we were going to paint some stripes into it. Originally had stripes on it. Then he said he was going to get some transfers. Then he decided he didn't want any of that doing at all, and we sprayed it all one colour, and he completely changed the design. But if you look at when I first went to see it, this is a food establishment that it looked really grotty, and it didn't look appealing. But now it stands out even more than it did, because you when you approach it, you don't know it's there, and then all of a sudden this fuselage appears out in between some buildings, and now it stands out even more.
Do you know, it strikes me, I mean, I've had, like I said, previous businesses, and I've had big properties, and I've put that shout out for, a couple of quotes for painters, and it's always been an industry that's frustrated me, because like you said there, I can't do it till May, or they'll overprice because they don't really want the job, it's too big, or, they'll underprice it, and you're like, well, I can see it's just like perhaps father, son, and it's going to take you 6 months, and that don't work either. So it seems to me that if you can deliver something much faster, and it's a competitive price, I would say very competitive, if not very cheap price, and it's going to last longer, everything's kind of stacked in your favour then, isn't it?
Agreed. And I just find sometimes when I speak to people and I'm quoting, and they come up against those very objections with other people, and I'm just like, do these people not want the work? Like, there's always a way. Like, I mean, we're pretty lucky in the sense that we've got teams. It's not just a 1 or 2 man band. We can be flexible. We can adapt. We have to adapt every day, because we're booked up for months. But what happens is next week we might have a full booking of outdoor work, and it rains all week, so we have to adapt. I have to switch other jobs in, and perhaps book somebody in who might have had to wait. So we're quite lucky like that.
Right, you mentioned objections, so let's get into it. Like, what are the 5? If you could pick out like 5 main objections, what would those objections be from the point of the customer or the client?
Quality is one, because
they worry about the quality
and the durability. Yeah. So whilst I mentioned before that it's cost effective, it's still not cheap. I'm not blind to the fact that somebody could be spending £2,000 painting the kitchen. They're worried that the paint won't be there in a year. So the guarantee that we provide includes peeling, fading, cracking, and paint failure, basically. So we're guaranteeing that if this paint fails in any way over the next 10 years, then we will be back to fix it. So that's probably the main objection. Cheaper than replacing. They often ask. They try. I get a lot of people saying to me, "Oh, I could replace the doors for that." Well, go on then. Just go and get a quote for replace your doors, and then let's compare. And then they come back. No, well, I can't. So, I was in IKEA a little while ago, and there was a small kitchen there, and I looked at it and I thought to myself, probably 800 quid to spray that. The kitchen was £6,000. That's proof in itself that that's for me just looking at it and thinking what I'd price it at, that it's cheaper to do it. That's £6,000 for the kitchen. That's not including fitting.
There is a shout here that you could potentially buy a used kitchen cheap as chips on Facebook Marketplace, fit it, you know what I mean, and then get We Spray in to kit it out and get yourself a real bargain there.
Yeah, absolutely. That's not something we've come across, but we do get a lot of people. We've done one this week, actually. He wanted it sprayed because he'd had some adjustments made. So he had an MDF wine rack built over his double fridge, and he'd added a cupboard and a storage unit, and none of this matched his current kitchen design. So we've been in and sprayed it, and it's all uniform now. It looks great.
Right. Okay. So that's a couple of things that we've ticked off there. What else is what's another objection that you face?
Finish and quality. So you get a lot, especially when somebody's spending a lot more money. They want to know that it doesn't look like it's painted, if that makes sense. They want it to look like factory. So one of the things we come up against quite a bit is where we actually spray. So as a rule, when we quote, we're quoting for spraying what you can see when you stood in the kitchen. That means we don't spray anything inside, including the backs of the doors. That's because often, no matter what your kitchen looks like on the outside, it'll be white on the inside with some kind of laminate vinyl cover. That often extends to the doors, but then we'll get the quote, no, well, my kitchen is also green on the back of the doors. So then that's a separate quote. We can do that as well. And yeah, the finish, again, that just leads to what we said before about matte satin or gloss. I can only advise them what we can do. And what I tend to do, having had trouble with my response in the past, is I will tell them, I'll guide them to how to choose a colour and how to choose a finish, but I won't recommend anything, because that has to be up to them. Because if I choose their colour and we put it on and they don't like it, we've then got a difficult discussion, which I don't want to have.
Just hand in hand with this, I mean, you do have a tool, don't you, on your website that can help people kind of picture what a finish is going to look like. I've seen it on the windows, but do you have something similar for kitchens as well?
Not at the moment. However, we, with the advent of AI, we're currently working on a few different things that will enable people to upload a photo of their own kitchen rather than the generic ones we use for the windows, and then pick a colour, and it will give them an idea, which it work a lot better than the configurator that we currently have, because it's their kitchen and it'll give them a good idea. So that's something we've got ready to roll in the future.
The final big objection then, what would you say it is?
Colour, and what I was just saying before, one of the conversations I have the most are around colour, and what do you think this will look good? And my answer is, I don't know. Will it? You're choosing. I can't help you choose your colour. What I'll tend to do is tell them to pick a base colour. So if they're thinking of grey, and there's hundreds of greys, just go and Google RAL grey colours rather than RAL colour charts, because RAL colour charts will give you every colour you can have. Just pick a grey from that. Do you want dark grey, light grey? All moves in a coordinated spectrum. Just go from there and choose there.
Just dig down into that objection a little bit. If it seems that people are struggling, I know this is a decision and perhaps even a mistake for them to make, but what other tools or practices do you have that just helps them make that decision?
At the moment, not much. What I tend to do is ask them to pick a colour off the chart that they like. Then I will go back through our archives and see what we've done in that colour and send it over to them so they can see it for real. Because we often get asked, can you just bring paint and test it? And we can't, because we operate nationally. It doesn't work like that. We have to have the vans prepared before they go out, and this paint is really expensive. So we can't just buy a litre of it and then put it on and then no, I don't like it, because then we have to go and find and buy more, and then we'd have to charge the customer more, which I'm not comfortable with. So I do my very best prior to the van leaving for that job to make sure that the customer's seeing all they can see, and chose the colour themselves. Have
you ever come across a job where you thought, this isn't right for spraying? And if so, what is it where spraying would be the wrong choice to go down?
It's a difficult one. It's usually, I have a problem with people who are older and they've got smaller kitchens, and you can tell the budget might be restricted, and I'm just not comfortable with putting that onto people who might not understand. I've had it before where I could just tell, they didn't know. I could tell them the price and they're like, yeah. And it just didn't feel like they knew what they were getting. So, at that point, I wouldn't want to, I have a real issue with rogue traders. And, I see some of the things they do and some of the stories they tell people. And we've gone in and redone kitchens for people that have been done by cowboys, and I just don't feel that that's the way to go about business. I'm not. If we earned a couple of £100 off that job, I'd rather not earn it. It just didn't feel right with that person. So, I'd just say to them, I don't think this is for you.
Well, I think it's essential for any business and any tradie to have strong ethics. And that's what you're talking about now. Now, my question was more about, like, is there a surface that you wouldn't spray?
Oh, no.
But I love the answer that you gave. The fact that, you know what I mean? I can pretty much spray anything. Now it boils down to whether I should spray it.
Yeah. The answer is we can spray anything. So we can spray brick, wood, metal. Certain metals need different levels of prep. Certainly when you're doing commercial work and you're spraying like the metal cladding, that you normally need to use metal specialists to you can only spray in certain temperatures, at certain pressures, and so on and so forth. But we can spray almost anything. I can't think of anything off the top of my head that we wouldn't have a look at. You
mentioned sort of preparation, right? And that triggered this question in my mind. Like, talk me through the customer journey. So I've come along to the website. I've decided, right, I want to get my kitchen or whatever painted. I've done a search. I've spoke to a friend. You know what I mean? I've found your details online, whatever. I land on your website, and then there's a digital quote generator, which I put some details in there. Is there? Or?
No, there will be. So the quote at the moment is it's manual, but the
I suppose what point I'm getting is, am I speaking to someone there?
Yeah.
Am I?
Yeah, you speak to me. So you usually speak to me. I'll take all the information. I'll find out what potential pitfalls might be in the way, and I'll try and gauge their reaction to so I can find out what the budget is or what they're expecting, and then we'll talk about the benefits of the service that we provide. And then at that point, once we've got them to the stage where they're ready to book in.
Sorry to cut in, but I just want to. I think it's really important. So, when I'm speaking to you, do I get a quote immediately, or is it within 20? So it's immediate,
yeah. Which
is incredible, isn't it? Because how many times do you go to get a job done and like, well, let me get back to you. You know what I mean? There's a bit of teeth sucking, and well, it's going to cost you a bit. Is this? You know what I mean? And 24 hours later, they drop this quote on you, but you're saying that. It's there.
I do it on the phone, yeah. I get that a lot, and so understandably and naturally, one of the things I often hear is, I'm going to get some more quotes. Great, no problem. I'll call you back next week. So then I'll call back next week. Did you get those quotes? No, they've not come in yet. I was like, why? I don't understand what's the delay. Like, I gave you my quote instantly, because I don't see what takes so long. You need to look at the photos. You know what you're going to need. You know where the job's located. Just give them the quote. So I don't know whether that's one of those hidden objections from the customer or it's genuine, but it happens a lot.
From my point of view, this is what I think, and I might be way off, right? But this is what I think. I think because you have this mindset of can do instead of like, do I want to, I think the traders can at times be guilty of overpricing something if they don't really want it, or they feel like they should submit a quote. I think there's other times when they just won't submit a quote because they're just not interested in their work and all this kind of stuff. Now, because you've pre-made the decision that you're going to take this job on and you're going to find a way, then that negates this backwards and forwards. Do I want to do it? Don't I want to do it? If I'm going to do it, I need to price it right. You know what I mean? You just go, right, okay, this is what it is. We're going to crack it. Do you want to do? And I think the power of giving someone an instant quote is huge.
I think you're right, and sometimes it's a bit of a double-edged sword for me. Sometimes I'll go back to a customer and, we want to book in. The other quote was double. I'm like, but then, for me, I know we're happy to do it at that price. So the other person is either greedy or they work things out differently. That's just the way they work. So it's nothing negative towards our competitor. That's just the way they work. That's the way we work. But I know that what I've quoted ensures a good job and ensures that we make money too.
Well, I suppose that sometimes people worry that something's too good to be true. Yeah. Right. Now I can see where these savings are in what you're doing. It's quicker. Yeah. You're using less paint. It's straight away. You can see that it's less hours, less products. So you can see the savings there, right? So we've got up to the point where I've received a quote. Okay, you've given me a time scale, I presume, and then we kind of book in. What happens then?
So it goes into the diary, and we have an admin assistant who goes through the diary and keeps on top of the booking. So they will keep in contact with the customer. They'll keep in contact with the sprayers, let them know where they're going and what time they're due to be there. and it's all handled by him basically. So the customer will be advised, we're going to be here at 10 o'clock, or we're going to have to reschedule it because it's raining. So he does all of that. But then once we get to the point where the lads are turning up, the first thing to do is they will assess the job just to make sure that I've not missed anything on the photos, which wouldn't matter anyway, because if I've quoted off the photo, I would never turn around and say, I've missed that, you're going to pay extra. It's it's one we take on the chin. Thankfully, that happens a lot less than it used to. So, and then they start the prep, and then they get the job done.
I'm assuming there's a massive assumption, okay, but I'm assuming that the majority, the key parts of this work is in the preparation.
100%, yeah. So it's probably 80% prep. It's only, the job's only ever going to come out as good as the prep that goes in. They spend, in 8 hours, they might spend an hour and a half spraying. The rest of it is prepping, making sure everything's masked and protected and covered up. There's going to be no overspray. Cleaning down, degreasing, decontaminating, and then obviously demasking and snagging when they've completed the job. So
just talk to me, if you've got, again, a customer, what advice do you give them for like prepping the area prior to you guys, turning up?
We only really need help with kitchens or anything internal. So you'd be surprised at the amount of times we turn up, and it does say in our booking confirmation that you need to empty the cupboards, empty the drawers, clear the worktops, give the kitchen a wipe down. We get there and nothing's been done at all. And the issue with that is that the lads are then going to have to work longer, which they may or may not be paid for. And, I don't really want to be, I'm not comfortable going to the customer and saying, I'm sorry, this is going to cost 200 more because of this. So we generally we've got a bit stricter with it, but we've turned up to houses where we're spraying the wardrobes and they're full of clothes. And it's like, well, what do you want us to do? Because if we get any spray paint on these clothes, it's ruined. It's not going to come off, and you've not emptied the wardrobe like we've asked you to do. So what do you want us to do? And then we've had to wait there while they've got all the stuff out and then got it on the bed or whatever, and we've masked over the bed.
Steve, when you're coming in to do these like wardrobes and kitchen cupboards, are you taking doors off, spraying it outside, or are you literally spraying it in situ?
It's 9 times out of 10 it's sprayed in situ. There'll be times when sometimes perhaps where the cupboard's situated or the angle, they'll have to take it off because the spray guns are quite big. So, if they can't get the angle that they need to get it, then that door would be coming off. But no, when even when the bats of doors are sprayed, they're opened and the apertures are all masked right up to the line where we're spraying. Hinges, etc., and mask handles are removed. We don't put the handles back on the job just because the paint dries within about an hour, but it's still fairly soft, which means it's not advisable to touch it. It needs to be left overnight to fully harden, at which point the customer would then need to put the handles back on. Right,
so again, I'm a customer. Okay, I've just had a job done. How do I get the best out of the paint job? Like, how can I make sure that the lifespan is as long as it can be, you don't get any chips, and that kind of thing? How can I help you do a good job is what I'm asking.
Just do what we say. So you'd be surprised. We sprayed a front door the other day, and the guy was told, leave it open. It needs to be left ajar, a couple of hours, shut it straight away. So, immediately he's got paint stuck to his to the seals and stuff like that, and then the onus is on us because they're still there to fix it. But then we've not charged him to do it, and the same goes with kitchens. Like I said before, a matte finish is always going to be easy to maintain. This paint is basically like car paint, so it can. There's no real maintenance schedule. I mean, if you wanted to jet wash your kitchen, you could, but you're only ever going to wipe it down, and there's nothing you can put on it that will damage it. You can use cleaning solution and so on and so forth. But we do have particularly lively kitchens, kids, dogs, that kind of stuff. The guarantee doesn't cover damage, but we do everything we can to make sure that if that happens, the customer's safe in the knowledge that we can provide a touch-up pen or something like that will help them fix it.
I'm quite interested into like current trends. So what's the current trends for window colours? What's the colour trends for for kitchen colours?
Grey for windows and green for kitchens. Green. Everybody there's so many different shade of greens. It wouldn't be my choice, but we get everything from light greens to super luminous Kawasaki type green. And we did one like that, and I was just I don't know, but they were really happy with it, and to each their own.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bit of in the world of hospitality, there's a bit of a rule where you shouldn't paint your walls green in like a cafe or a restaurant because it makes the food look a bit. It can make it look a bit ucky. Yeah, the way that light works. So to hear that people are painting their kitchen green, Hulk green, by the sounds of it, is bizarre.
Greys as well. I mean, greys seem to be the colour that go with everything. So we get a lot of grey kitchens ranging from, lighter grey. Surprisingly as well, we get an awful lot of people spraying them white. Kitchen, in my mind, the kitchen's always white, isn't it? But we get a lot of people going, when it's wooden and pine, they spray them white, and it makes it look so much brighter, fresher, modern.
And what about finish? Matte, I suppose.
Satin.
Satin.
Satin is the majority of what we do, and that's a lot. A lot of that is down to my advice. It's the most easy to maintain. It gives the best finish. If you go for gloss in a kitchen, it's susceptible to fingerprints. It takes more managing than satin does, and satin's just easy to look after.
Have you had these jobs where you talked about the green kitchen and you're like, are you sure? You know what I mean? You're just like, this is not.
Yeah, all the time. To be fair, when customers choose colours, I'll say to the lads, just spray. Don't whack this kitchen. Just spray a bit. Just make sure the customer's happy. Because it has happened in the past. Sprayed the whole kitchen, don't like it. I was like, yeah, but that's what you chose, and now you're stuck with it. And it's always a difficult conversation, but I've kind of learned my lesson, and if there's anything I think, I'll ask the lads just to spray a bit and let them check it before they go ahead and do the lot.
Have you done floors before? And can you do like varnishes and stains?
No,
and that?
we can do, but that is we don't have anybody experienced with the kind of the stuff that you need to put over the top of the paint. So we've just started doing worktops, which you can spray in all sorts of finishes like granite. You can have different effects on it. You can spray it in a solid colour. But then because it's a worktop, you'd have to we have to apply diamond coat and armour guard, which makes it scratch and heat resistant, because otherwise you just have a worktop with paint like that is going to get scratched. And the same applies to a floor. You need, I can't think what the stuff's called, but you need a certain type of product to go over what you're doing. And it's not, we actually quoted a job for Chester Zoo. We did some work there, not Chester Zoo, sorry, Knowsley Safari Park. We did quote Chester Zoo. We were doing some work at Knowsley Safari Park, and we were spraying the walls in the baboon enclosure. And we have to apply sealant and stuff to the walls because they will just urinate and defecate all over the place and throw it at the wall. So, but then we were. You
don't need to tell. I worked with a lad from Bradford, so I know all about that.
So we were asked to quote for the floor. So I looked into what we needed to apply, and it was hugely expensive. And they were running quite close to the top of their budget, and they just decided that they were just going to polish the concrete. Rather than apply this stuff, but it can be done. There's nothing that can't be done, really.
Right, Steve. So obviously we've done lots of talking there about what you do and how it's done, but I just want to talk about We Spray Group Limited in particularly, and I just wondered if there's somebody watching this and they're sort of thinking, you know what I mean, I could do with something painting. Why choose this company? If you could pick out sort of 5 ways that you are unique, perhaps, what would those be?
The thing, most of our competition are one-man bands, not insured, not regulated, and I feel like I'm generalising there, but I know from experience, from people I've spoke to, some of the I've heard some horror stories, and we are fully transparent. We're in the public domain. You know who we are. You know who owns the business. You know where we're situated. We're a limited company. We were VAT registered. We have all insurances and accreditations where needed. Whereas I think you'd struggle to find a lot of that with a lot of our competition. We tend to focus on premium quality materials and paint and stuff like that. Now, that means that sometimes we're not the cheapest, but most times we are the best. We don't like to race to the bottom because I know where that ends up. I've seen it, I've done it, and you just end up making no money, and then it creates resentment between you and the customer because they've driven you down on price, and then they're asking for more. So we tend to avoid those situations, and we focus on quality over anything else. I believe we're a lot faster and more efficient than some of our competitors for the same reason that they are one-man bands. They can't do in a day what we can do because we are sending vans with 2 or 3 men on, and we're working twice as fast, and these people are paying the same price. So what that means is we can move on to the next job where Mr. One-Man Band might be at that property for 2 or 3 days, disrupting that customer's life. We're in and out in a day because we've sent a team of fast, efficient, and professional people to get that job done. As well as that, we have a comprehensive range of spray. So we come up against people that they don't want to spray kitchens, they don't want to spray wood, they don't want to spray anything other than what you're used to. Whereas all of our guys can do all of it. So we can go in and we can, if we come up against something that we might need to adapt to, you might find that somebody else might walk away from it. We won't. We'll sit there, we'll find a solution. And if that particular operative isn't able to do what the customer's asking, we've got somebody who can do it. So we'd send them in. And finally, customer satisfaction. I believe that is amongst everything. So even if, and it happens, you come up against really, really difficult customers, just deal with them. It doesn't mean they don't like you or anything like that. It just means that they might not understand what you're doing, or maybe I've not explained it properly. So the focus is always on customer satisfaction. Making sure that they're happy with what we've done, because I believe that they will then go on and tell people what a good job we did, and they'll leave us a review. And social proof is everything these days, isn't it?
That's it. Right. So I know, Steve, you're a car guy. You're a massive car guy. Yep. Have you ever been tempted to spray your own car?
No, certainly not me. so we've actually, I did have one of the lads spray. We had a bonnet on one of my cars where the lacquer had gone. So I got him to do that. The problem with cars is it has to be done in a controlled environment because of the type of. It's slightly different to the paint we use, but there's a different mix of chemicals. So the stuff we use can be sprayed outdoors. You don't have to worry about contamination or anything. It's designed for this purpose. But no, cars is one thing we'll probably avoid.